spare. Gan. No, I haven't regressed to childlike status, but rather this is reference to the Queen Mother. To assist you with a bit of history and context, Elizabeth Angela Marguerite Bowes-Lyon, who lived from the 4th of August 1900 to the 30th of March 2002, getting to the ripe old age of 101, was Queen of the United Kingdom and the Dominions of the British Commonwealth from the 11th of December 1936 to the 6th of February 1952 as the wife of King George VI. She was concurrently the last Empress of India until the British Raj was dissolved in August 1947. After her husband died, she was known as Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother to avoid confusion with her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II. Born into a family of British nobility, Elizabeth came to prominence in 1923 when she married the Duke of York, the second son of King George V and Queen Mary. The couple and their daughters Elizabeth and Margaret embodied traditional ideas of family and public service. The Duchess undertook a variety of public engagements, became known for her consistently cheerful countenance. In 1936, Elizabeth's husband unexpectedly became king when his older brother, Edward VIII, abdicated in order to marry the American divorcee, Wallis Simpson. Elizabeth then became Queen Consort. She accompanied her husband on diplomatic tours to France and North America before the start of the Second World War. During the war, her seemingly indomitable spirit provided moral support to the British public. After the war, her husband's health deteriorated and she was widowed at the age of 51. Her elder daughter, aged 25, became the new queen. After the death of Queen Mary in 1953, Elizabeth was viewed as the matriarch of the British royal family. In her later years, she was a consistently popular member of the family, even at times when other members of the royal family were suffering from low levels of public approval. She continued an active public life until just a few months before her death, at the age of 101, 7 weeks after the death of her younger daughter, Princess Margaret. So, some history with regard to the Queen Mother, and she was known for liking a drink and racehorses. Anyway, back to Harry and his autobiography, and he's explaining that he is now at Balmoral, and it's the summer of 2001. So we've jumped forward a couple of years. And we get a description of where they're driving through, and he's talking about the fact that now they're on private roads. He jumped behind the wheel, putting into place his driving lessons that he'd received from his father. And then he explains the drive through, and again it's quite evocative, the ghostwriter doing his work here, talking about the midges and describing the Scottish moorland, etc., and then arriving at the lodge. And Harry describes the smells that are there from the silver birch, and that Grandpa, Prince Philip, is there grilling away with venison and Cumberland sausages. And that the Queen, the late Queen, was there with her speciality, the salad dressing. And he explained that at these dinners at this lodge in Balmoral, they'd often have guests, and Harry recounting the fact that he would engage in discussing things with a prime minister or a bishop. And then he explains that his great-grandmother arrived, and he offered his hand because his father had drummed that into him. But then he could see that she needed more help, and he describes her as Gan because she just celebrated her 101st birthday and was looking frail. And notwithstanding her age, she asked for a martini, and so someone hands her that, and he watches her take a sip, and then he decides that he's going to join in and think, hey, I'm going to have a cocktail too. But he's a bit disappointed because nobody actually notices that he does so apart from Gan. And then he sat down and started chatting with her. And he talks about the fact that she was really speaking to him and really listening. And he wondered why. Was it the fact that it was the gin playing a part, or had he grown up somewhat? And he says he wishes he could recall what they talked about, and he says he wishes he'd asked her more questions. He talks about the fact that she'd been the war queen, and she was infamous for saying other things. And he explains that she was born 3 years before the aeroplane was invented, and yet still played the bongo drums on her 100th birthday. And he's then saying that he wished he'd asked her about certain things about King George VI. And he talks about how Gangan believed in love, but nothing transcended the crown. She also reportedly despised the woman he'd chosen, talking about King Edward VIII's wife. And he says he was good at making her laugh. Normally, it was Prince Philip's job to do that, and he had a knack for making the Queen Mother laugh, but he wanted to do so also. And then he explains that he was telling Gangan about Ali G, the character played by Sacha Baron Cohen, and he taught her to say Booyakasha and told her how to flick her fingers, something that he made mention of in one of the recent interviews. And it made him feel part of things that he had taught her to do this, and that she would say this word Booyakasha and then shriek afterwards. And it made him feel that he was involved. And it's interesting again that it shows this particular side of Harry, that where somebody gives him time and shows him affection, that he responds to it in a favourable way, that it seems that's what he's crying out for all of the time, in part because he has a standoffish father, for reasons that I've explained previously, and of course that his mother, warm and empathic, was no longer around. And again, it just reinforces with this pleasant tale of an evening with his family, of Prince Philip grilling and the evocative image created by the ghostwriter setting the scene, that this was another moment that he very much enjoyed. And he paints a good memory, but it also shows how that wanting to belong was important to him. And therefore, you can see that as he got older, because his girlfriends, it didn't lead to anywhere, that he saw his brother marrying and content and happy with Catherine, and that he, of course, almost felt like he didn't really have a role, that he didn't have a partner, he didn't have a role that he felt was comfortable within the royal family. This made him such prime material to the wiles and machinations of the narcissist. It is no surprise whatsoever, alongside with all the other susceptibilities of the fact that he was vulnerable because of the loss of his mother, the fact that he felt somewhat adrift, the fact that his various empathic traits exist that cause him to have them corrupted by emotional thinking. It's no surprise whatsoever that Harry's wife was able to get her claws into him, sink her teeth into him so readily and so easily. Moments like this shows you this contrast between the red mist Harry and the quite sensitive, kind, amusing Harry who just wants to fit in. Interesting insights that gives us a better picture of why he is such an apt victim for his narcissist wife. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.